Well, that sucked. Chiefs lose to the Broncos. The offense, they couldn't find the end zone. It was drops. It was turnovers, silly mistakes. That's what ultimately doomed the Chiefs and their loss to the Broncos on Sunday and snapped that 16-game winning streak against their division rival. This is 10 things. We're going to talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, hello, good people, and welcome to 10 Things here on KC Sports Network. I'm BJ Kissel, hanging out with Hayley Lewis, and we've got some Chiefs. I'll say Chiefs news for you, but this is going to be kind of like a therapy session. We're just going to get it out. We're going to complain for the next hour about things that we don't know. We don't always know everything. We know what we know, and we're emotional. We're fans. We're fanatics. And so we're going to share our thoughts and air our grievances regarding what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs and that performance that we saw against the Broncos on Sunday. But first, we do want to thank Mission Taco Joint, sponsor of this program, now with 3 locations in Kansas City, including the new one out in Leawood at Park Place. You can get 10% off your order at Mission Taco Joint in any of the locations in Kansas City by just mentioning KCSN to your server or your waitress on Tuesdays, and you'll get that discount. Mission Taco also helps our Feed It Forward program in providing meals alongside us to Hope Faith Ministries, the homeless shelter in downtown Kansas City. So we appreciate Mission Taco for sponsoring this show, but also for helping us out on the foundation side. If you're interested in supporting that program, check out the KCSN Foundation, and that help you get involved. So let's get started with our 10 things. Haley, it's going to be a little different this time. It's going to be the 10 things that annoyed us during Sunday's loss to the Broncos.
I have 20 things that annoyed me, but we had to narrow it down to 10. So This will do.
Let's start with the first one.
All right. Streak versus Denver. Lost their divisional game on the road for the first time. This was the Chiefs' first loss by 5 or more points since October 24th, 2021 at Tennessee. Their streak of 40 consecutive games without losing by 5+ points, including the playoffs, was the longest streak in NFL history.
I think that's the stat that jumps out to me as being the craziest of all of them. It wasn't beating a team 16 times in a row. It was the not losing a game by 5 or more points. 40 consecutive games. I think that perspective is needed, and I'm going to give it to myself right now before we start complaining and getting all pissed off about things went wrong. It was one game. It was a bad game against not a very good team that we just kind of made their season. But yeah, not having a game where you lose by more than 5 points in 40 consecutive games is absolutely crazy. And after the game, Andy Reid said what you'd expect Andy Reid to say if you've ever listened to an Andy Reid presser, particularly after a loss. Said, I take full responsibility for it. I saw things this afternoon I haven't seen from the guys, and that's my responsibility to make sure they're right. And we weren't today. That was what Andy Reid said post-game. Haley, I want to get your thoughts on his comments, because I know a lot of Chiefs fans they complain that Andy Reid just kind of the mea culpa, it's on me, taking the responsibility for everybody else, and they want him to tell him what's wrong, tell him what's going on. I have a take on this. It's probably different than how other people feel, but how do you feel about Andy Reid's pressers and not just everybody have it?
Here's the thing. He's the guy in charge. He's the guy at the helm, and yeah, it's your fault. I mean, that's he would say that to everyone's face. Like, there's no hate on Coach Reid. I love the man. I think he's a wonderful coach, an even better person. But you're absolutely right. You're in charge of this ship. So yes, I mean, at the end of the day, you got those kids on your team because they're on your team because you and Veach decided they would be on your team. So yes, at the end of the day, it does come down to the head coach. And I hate saying that. I don't want to put the blame anywhere, but if he's got to take the blame, then yes, I understand why.
Yeah, I mean, it all falls on the guy who's making all the decisions.
Exactly.
Go out and catch a pass for somebody, but he's put in the position to go out there. And it doesn't bother me. It never has that Andy Reid doesn't just come out and start blaming and pointing fingers at coaches.
What does that help?
Decisions. It doesn't help anything. And honestly, if you're going to give grace and you're going to give, trust into someone, granted, he's not going to be perfect play caller. There's going to be times where he calls some cute play on 3rd and 1 and we all get pissed off. But at the end of the day, he's one of the best coaches in NFL history. He knows more about football than we do, and the decisions on why he's calling certain plays or doing certain things, if he had to sit down and explain it to you as somebody like all of us do, like, what are we doing? He'd be explaining it away with football stuff that just goes over most of our heads. And I know it's easy to say, hey, just run the ball up the middle, but you can't at the same time praise him for being one of the best coaches in NFL history and yet make statements that go beyond being pissed about one individual thing. You can be pissed about a play call, and be critical of that, absolutely. But to take it and make it seem bigger, like he shouldn't be doing this or he's lost it on this, that's where it's like, no, And when it comes to the presser stuff, he has the relationships that he does with players and the people that feel the way they do about him across the NFL because he doesn't go publicly to let somebody have it. Behind the scenes, do you think he's just sit in a meeting room and not let him have it? No. That stuff can stay in the locker room. It doesn't need to become public as much as it would make some of us feel better in the short term. As far as culture and what he's created throughout his entire career, it's not going to help anything. And I'm not defending that he's above criticism. I just don't think coming out and publicly criticizing a player or publicly coming out and saying the young receivers are not where they need to be, right? Even things like that, the players know it. Yeah. And he knows that they know it. He may say it behind the scenes. He doesn't need to say it in front of a microphone so that player's family and all the players that have supported him and their friends start seeing their guy get criticized by the head coach.
Right.
There's so many reasons why. I don't think that that's the right strategy, but I understand why it annoys fans after games.
I mean, I get it. But yeah, what does that do? What does that help? And how does that make the locker room more cohesive or get better?
Yeah.
It doesn't. So also, I think we were talking about this a little bit before. First time without a touchdown since that game that we mentioned on October 24th of 2021 in Tennessee. That was the Titans game. Before that, it was a Super Bowl 55 against the Bucs, which I don't even want to talk about that. That was very painful to watch.
Only that game 100 times. The Chiefs are never going to win that game with the guys.
Sure, with the line, yeah.
Like that wasn't never going to happen.
But only 2 times since Mahomes has taken over as a starter have the Chiefs not scored a touchdown in a game.
Yeah, and I'm going to we'll take the blame for this one at KCSN because at the Kingdom Bar and Grill, which is where we hang out, watch the game. So if you're looking for a place to watch the game in Germany, if you live out in Odessa and they're going to shut off all your power, feel free to.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they scheduled like the Energy, like Evergy or whoever it is, like scheduled a power outage
on a Chiefs game
in Odessa, and they're shutting down the power for 12 hours between like midnight and noon that day. So people in Odessa, like, they're not going to have power. Like, they know it now. It's been on the news in a thing. But,
wow, then come out over.
Come out to Overland Park. Kingdom Bar will be open for brunch. We're going to have a good time. But for the first time, we did a kind of like everybody drew names for all offensive skill guys. And if you drew the name of whoever scored the first touchdown for the Chiefs, KCSN is going to pay $50 towards your dinner. First time we did it.
Wait, wow.
Didn't score. So, like, saved $50. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it was KCSN's fault. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, there's no such thing as a jinx.
Let us know in the comment section who you think is most at fault for the game on Sunday. That'll really stir it up. Let us know what you think. All right, let's move on to number 2.
All right, we got turnovers. Those happen to happen a lot.
That was it.
5.
That's why.
5 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 1 muffed punt. The Broncos scored 3 touchdowns with drives beginning at the Kansas City's 39-yard line after surrendering a 39-yard punt return midfield after an MVS fumble and at the KC 9-yard line after Hardman's muffed punt. Hardman muffed a punt at the worst.
That was the fun. Yeah, all of the penalties. You probably could have got away with the 4 if they had drove down and put an offensive drive together. But 11 minutes to go in the game. You're down by, I think, 5 at that point. You muff it inside the red zone. Or I think it was like even a goal-to-go situation afterwards. It was gifted them a 2-possession lead, and the way the offense was playing, it was too much for them to overcome, and it probably took the wind completely out of their sails. And so now I want to see, I'll give McCole Hardman credit just for owning it after the game, talking about it. Sure. Says, like, this one's on me. This is my fault. I know it sounds like a simple thing, but not all players go talk to the media or answer questions after stuff like that. Not saying any more than it's impressive that a young player, especially anybody coming in, who that had to sting even more just being here for a couple of weeks, in trying to be, that difference maker at a position in a situation where the Chiefs need somebody more at receiver necessarily than punt returner. But shout out to him for owning it. But that was, if you're looking for a turning point play or a difference in the game, that was it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you're not saying it was because of McCole that they lost, right? Yeah. But that was a defining moment, and it wasn't the culmination of the 5 turnovers that were so painful. I think it was Craig who was pointing out he found the average. The average. Okay, so that's the average starting field position for the Broncos on scoring drives was the 29-yard line.
The Chiefs' 29.
I was sorry. Yeah. Let me specify.
I think it was the 50, the 39, and then like the 13. So I guess they were just outside the red zone, or just outside the goal-to-go situation after the muffed punt. You're giving them 29 yards to score a touchdown. That, again, difference in the game with the 5 turnovers. You gave them so many chances. fact that the game was as close as it was, even in the first half, was going to say, like, the margin of error in beating the Chiefs, like, it's going to take a lot because the defense did play fairly well. And we'll get in a little bit about the defense a little bit later. It's going to be a lot about the offense on this show because we're unhappy and we're going to tell you, we're going to complain about it. And then once we're done, you guys can all listen to it and you can complain as long as you want. But this is probably it for me at least. You rarely ever hear me say anything about that play cost them the game.
Yeah.
On any one individual play. Same thing with refs. Refs never cost you a game. It definitely can make things more difficult at times and things you have to overcome, but there's a lot of plays in a game that can make the difference. But moving on, red zone inefficiency for number 3. That has been an issue for this Chiefs team compared to what we've seen in the past. They were 0 for 3 inside the red zone against the Broncos in this game. We talk about play calling. We talk about lack of just running the ball right up the middle in these situations. I would just like, just a challenge, and I know they won't ever do this. I've been clamoring for this for years. But as an offensive lineman, you can see, we've seen them on the broadcast getting frustrated coming off. It was a couple weeks ago they did the Kadarius Toney, ran like the little zone read on a 4th and short at midfield. I think it was probably last time they played Denver. It was a couple weeks ago that you could see Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey visibly being frustrated coming off the field. I just wonder if next time they get to a 1st and goal from the 4, if they just go to the offensive line and say, we're going to run the ball between the guards 4 plays in a row, go beat them. Just go beat them up. See if you can get in there. And don't try any of the cute stuff. Just challenge the offensive line and say, this is all going to be on you. You have 4 plays to get 4 yards. Can you do it? And I think challenging them that way, not that you have to do it every time, but challenging them that way and saying, what, you've complained about it. Offensive linemen love run blocking. They don't love to pass block. They want to get out there and they want to pin their ears back and hit somebody and maybe let them take some frustration about how poor they've been in these situations and to take it out on somebody. I don't know if they'll ever do that. I think as an offensive lineman, that's music to my ears. Just give us one chance to do this. And maybe it's when they're up by a few touchdowns. Don't know if it's going to be this week against Miami. They're going to play a whole lot better for that to be the case. But maybe that's something that you do when you're up 2 or 3 scores late in the game just to get some work done inside the red zone. Maybe it's a tendency breaker, if nothing else, that you're not going to do in a tight game, but challenge them, see what comes up. But Chiefs ranked 2nd in the NFL last year in red zone efficiency, scoring touchdowns 71% of the time they got inside an opponent's 20. This year, currently, they're ranked 18th, scoring touchdowns just 51% of the time. That includes going 1 of 8 against Denver in their 2 matchups.
I don't like that. Crazy. I don't like that. And you saw, I think it's Tucker who actually pointed it out, saw Creed Humphrey yesterday just throwing his arms up and down and showing that frustration in the situations. And it begs the question, like you were putting up, what's the answer to that? Do you do away with the cutesy stuff? Do you just, like you said, go for it and let the offensive lineman take that as a challenge? I don't know, but going from 2nd to 18th?
Not great, Bob.
No.
I have notes in here. The horizontal play calls, the shovel pass to Rice.
Yeah.
And it worked. It's worked a lot. It's hard to completely knock that play. Seemed like Donovan Smith didn't stay on his block. We're really surprised to see that Donovan Smith was the highest rated Chiefs offensive player, I think, in this game against Denver, according to Pro Football Focus. Surprising, considering it seemed like at least whenever something negative happened, he was right in the middle here offensively, or he was a part of it. I want to put all of it on the offensive line because in general, I thought they did okay. But man, the short yardage stuff, it's going to come back to get them at some point, and it already has. But we keep talking about it. I'm okay with them never running a quarterback sneak.
Especially in Denver. Don't ever do that again.
Perfectly cool with it. But we need to find a play other than that reverse trap to the fullback or whoever's running it. I never know what to call it. I'm going to find a former running back. Just be like, what's that play called? Like, what do you call it? But it's the one that we've seen a million times. That it was the Anthony Sherman play, then it was the Michael Burton play. It's where the quarterback opens up, reverses, hands it inside, and it's a fullback dive. And there is a counter off of it, the counter pitch, because we saw it against Buffalo in 2014 to Jamal Charles, and he went for like 30 yards, and we won the game. Never forget that play. Okay.
I don't want to talk about the next one.
The next one's going to be tough.
So frustrating. I tweeted something out about this, and you can tell me, you're married, so you have better, I said, I saw this on like a podcast. The first argument you have in a relationship is going to be the argument you will always have. Like the first argument is going to be a continued issue throughout your entire relationship.
People who are who they are, and sometimes it just rubs.
Well, the Chiefs are who they are because the receivers were the issue right off the top.
Damn it.
You played into my narrative.
Yeah, I did.
And the receivers are still the same damn issue. You can put a Band-Aid over it. It looked a little better against the Bears. It looked better against the Chargers, but it did not look good. And it was more exposed, I think, than we've ever seen it last night. So how do you fix it?
The receivers dropping passes. We saw
chemistry.
It's just Rice. We've seen it with Sky Moore. We've seen it with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Looked it up. The Chiefs have 15 drop passes this year. It's the most in the NFL, according to Stats Perform. Again, I'll say that again. The Chiefs have the most drop passes in the NFL.
If it hits both your hands and you're in the NFL.
Yeah. And Rasheed Rice has been the one rookie it's been good and played well. I know PFF has him ranked really high. The lab guys talked about this when he got drafted. There were drops were a problem for him in college. This is not a new thing for Rasheed Rice. Now, on pass, this is not a new thing for the Chiefs either, and this is the area that still continues to worry. On passes, 10 or more yards down the field in the air, Patrick Mahomes is 4 for 11 with 2 interceptions in this game on Sunday against the Broncos. We said after last week's touchdown to Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the broken play through a 47-yard touchdown, or MVS came on basically an over route on a broken play, scored a touchdown, that was the first touchdown the Chiefs had thrown on a ball that went more than 20 yards down the field since the beginning of the 2021 season. So since we had not had Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs had not scored a touchdown on a pass thrown over 20 yards in the air. That is bananas. And that was something we did not talk about, or I don't remember hearing all of last season when the Chiefs went and won a Super Bowl. So do you need it to win a Super Bowl? No. But have they really pigeonholed themselves into, and I say they, the Chiefs executive, Brett Veach and company, Andy Reid, everybody involved with those decisions, put a lot on a lot of young receivers and other receivers who hadn't proven to play at the level you were expecting them to play for your offense to function at a level to go and win another Super Bowl. And that's not going to happen. And it hasn't yet happened with this group of young receivers. The young receivers developing has been a storyline going back to OTAs. We were talking about it with Justin Ross, who's now dealing with all of, his mess that he put himself in. And so the Chiefs bet on themselves developing a group of young wide receivers and asking all of those guys. I've said this 100 times. You're going to get sick of me saying it, but it was already set up to be, I don't say an issue because you can work your way through it and they know better what they have than we do. But you were asking all of the guys in that room to have to be better than they've ever been for the Chiefs offense to function the way that it needs to. You were asking Sky Moore to take a step forward. You're asking Rasheed Rice as a rookie to be an impact guy. You're asking Justin Watson to do more. And we freaking joked about this. Justin Watson is wide receiver 1.
That's what Tuck was saying. Just say it. Say it.
We said it like laughing, and now it's like, shit, that's not funny. Like, that's serious. And I'm actually I'll defend Justin Watson more than anyone else on Twitter or social media, but Justin Watson should not be your wide receiver 1, which is why I was saying whether it's Odell or DeAndre Hopkins, whatever it was going to be, it takes the pressure and it knocks everybody else down a peg. You don't need Sky Moore to be a number 2. You're not putting that pressure on him to be something that he's never been. And I'm going to, later this week on the Chiefs YouTube channel, I'm going to do a short about the expectations of just simple math on, you expect Patrick Mahomes to throw for 5,000 yards or 4,000 yards, whatever it is. You expect Travis Kelce to get 1,500, but if Mahomes is going to throw for 4,000 yards, Kelce's going to get 1,500 at best, maybe 1,200. Where are the other 2,800 yards coming from? There's a giant assumption that, they just figure out. No, it was a bunch of young guys that were needing to have double or triple the amount of yards they'd ever had in their careers for the Chiefs to step up. So I'm going to go off on the next one because the next one's going to fire me up. But
let me wrap it up with this. Garrett Dieter, former wide receiver for the Chiefs, tweeted out something that said, your biggest concern as a Chiefs fan, and he said you can tell that there's a trust issue on offense right now, and I do think it's going to work itself out down the road, and continue to kind of talk about that on his Twitter. But I think it's obvious to a lot of people that that's the issue, that it takes time, that it takes chemistry, that it takes trust. Like where we see another play where Mahomes finds Kelce on not his route, but what he broke away from. And it was, I think, one of their biggest gains yesterday in the third quarter. That's something that's going to take development and time. And I know it's frustrating because they need it now. But I think that's what the simple solution falls back to, and even more furthers your point about having a veteran wide receiver in there.
Yeah, they can't change the system. They can't change what they're asking these wide receivers to do. And we'll get into should the Chiefs trade for a wide receiver later in the show. It'll be point number 10. So if that's all you want to hear right now, you can skip to the final section.
But you do want to hear this point.
Yeah, the next one,
Take off.
I'm going to get fired up a little bit because there's a lot of Sky Moore slander. I'm not defending Sky Moore. I'm not defending the guys that haven't stepped up when the team has needed them to. And not to say that they won't still develop. We've seen it before. We thought the Chiefs weren't going to win a Super Bowl because Tommy Townsend couldn't hold a kick the right way. And then that became kind of laughable by the end, and now in the middle of some streak where he hasn't missed a kick all year, and it's awesome. It's not even an issue anymore. And so we're hoping that we see that same kind of development with the receivers. We know that there's an offensive staff. They've developed receivers before. They can develop these guys. It's not like they can't, but it doesn't mean they will. And the one player who seems to be getting a pass throughout all of this is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He is the veteran in that room. It's his 6th year in the league. And we have our quarterback in key situations having to tell the veteran receiver to come back to the ball when he's throwing from a far hash to a deep out outside the numbers along the sideline. And nothing good is going to happen from that receiver not coming back. Maybe with a rookie, maybe with Sky Moore, maybe with a receiver. And this is even giving more credit than, or more of a leash than it deserves. But maybe a player who hadn't consistently played with a quarterback that can make throws like that to expect, hey, he can make this throw and I need to come back. But Coach Reed said after the game, and I don't know if he was talking about this play specifically, but he's talking about an inch could be a mile at this level. NFL cornerbacks are too good, and it is too embarrassing for a player like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who accounts for more than half of the Chiefs' cap for the wide receiver room. He's $11 million of the Chiefs' cap room amongst their wide receivers in total. The rest of the receivers combined have a $9.5 million cap hit. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is at $11 million on his own. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is the 4th highest paid player, according to base salaries, on the Chiefs roster this year. This guy's averaging like 25 yards a catch. His best year of his career was 680 yards. He has not stepped up. And again, for a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes to have to post-game say, I trust my guys. And then what we see on the field is he throws an out in a big situation, and his veteran receiver should know better, doesn't come back to the ball. There were like 4 people in the bar around where Tucker, Kent, Haley were sitting. All of us snapped and said the same thing at the same time, saying you have to come back to the ball.
Then you see Mahomes.
You see Mahomes saying you have to. When us casuals know what's going on, and we can see it before we even get clarification and validation from the coaches that they're saying the same thing. I'm sorry, that's embarrassing for a receiver who, coming into this, I thought he had the biggest opportunity to go for 1,000 yards for the first time in his career, to step up and be that guy, and he is untrustworthy. And yet Sky Moore and Rashee Rice and Justin Watson, all these other guys are getting the blame. They're getting thrown under the bus on social. And yeah, the group hasn't stepped up, but where's the MVS slant? Like, where were the expectations for the guy getting paid? The guy that should be the ones doing this. He's been here as long as anyone, or longer than anyone. That dude should be making plays, and he's not.
You made the point. You came from an Aaron Rodgers to a Patrick Mahomes. You should be able to catch the ball. So I guess the issues that were in Green Bay are just translating over here, and it hasn't continued to.
Or you paid him. You draft Sky Moore in the 2nd round. He doesn't work out.
Sure.
Not a great look for Brett Veach. That doesn't happen. We saw it with McColl. We've seen it with some other picks that haven't panned out necessarily for the draft position of where they are at. But again, like McColl, I didn't think McColl was traded to come back to be the answer for the Chiefs passing game. He wasn't the answer when he was here. Mm-hmm. He ran the package plays. He ran some of the stuff that with Kadarius Toney had been running, wasn't as effective as we thought. But some of the jet sweeps, the end around, some of the sweep, the screen game stuff, McColl's been really good at. But it's not running double moves down there. It's not the stuff that we saw from MVS not coming back to the ball, or Sky Moore not coming back to the ball a little bit later. But at least Sky Moore's a little dude on the outside that it's in a 50-50. You got Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You just box somebody out to go make a play, like a basketball, like a 4 in a basketball game. Like, just box him out, use your big body, get in front of him. It bothers me that MVS is getting a pass, it seems like, while all the young receivers are getting thrown under the bus. More should be expected from a veteran player, especially a guy who's the only one in that room getting paid, and he's not stepping up. He needs to be better.
I agree with you. And on that note, I'll let you lead us in.
We're going to take a break.
I think it's a good idea.
It's time for a break. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with 5 more things that annoyed us in that Chiefs loss to the Broncos.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 10 Things. And BJ Kissel hanging out with Hayley Lewis. We appreciate you sit and listen to us complain a little bit. Maybe it makes you feel a little bit better for people that complain about the same things that you are, but I promise you I'm going to complain about it now, and then you move forward. You know, you cry till midnight or whatever, and then you move past it. We're going to cry till 1 as we record.
Yeah, so then we're going to get over it. And then it's time to think about brunch and mimosas and an early game and exciting things going on in Germany.
So far, it's been a lot of like heavy stats and just
Yeah.
Let's kind of pouring it on. Let's
fluff it up.
Fluff it up. I'll let you.
Let me fluff it up. Let me fluff it up with my girl T Swift. She wasn't there. She wasn't there for her man, and her man didn't do great. Taylor Swift at the game. This is what it averages for Travis Kelce: 8.5 receptions for 108 yards and 6.7 for 50.3 without her. So again, when she's in attendance, 8.5 receptions for 108 yards. When she's not there, 6.7. 50.3. T Swifty, we need you. We need you. I hate to say it, but come back.
I'm torn on this because I don't think that like the trash talk and all that stuff like really makes a huge difference at the NFL level.
No.
And so like this stuff,
It's just a fun stat.
It's just a fun stat. But at the same time, do I think that in the back of his mind, he's showing out for like the most famous woman in the world?
Oh, yeah, he is.
And it's like, absolutely.
Sure.
I think it's going to make him play better. No. Do I think he feels himself a little bit more when he's making plays in front of, again, he's dating the most famous woman in the world. Is there something there that you might want to show out a little bit? Yeah. Do I think it's going to lead to these numbers? No. So it's not nothing, but it's
the Broncos,
something, but not nothing. Whatever.
Who won the Super? I know. The Broncos who won the Super Bowl last night. They decided to play Taylor Swift after the I mean, honestly, like go out, show out, be petty. I love it. Like,
I mean, it's like a bad way. Like, we have been that team that had been so bad. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. They shouldn't have done all this stuff.
No. Go to that level.
Like, go to town. I was the one sitting in a bar in San Diego in 2012, yelling at a TV by myself because the Chiefs got flagged for the kid and play dance after a sack in which, or excuse me, it was the game of the kid and play dance, but I was losing my mind cheering because the Chiefs had like took a lead for the first time all season in a game that was like week 12. Like, I remember what it was like to sarcastically cheer for things or just to give us that little ounce of hope in the middle of their season.
I love it.
And so
have fun.
Yeah, you win, you beat us, you get a chance to go out there and talk trash, and I'm not going to get all petty about it and say and judge how they celebrate.
Yeah.
Play a little Taylor Swift.
Dude.
I'm sure the fans in Denver
had a good time.
ate it up, loved it. And then when Taylor Swift goes there, guess what? She's still going to sell out everything. She's going to go crush it. And boyfriend, you probably haven't had a Super Bowl.
The only thing I'll bring up and we'll move on, I know I keep making this way longer. He's kind of getting ripped apart for the fact that he was at the World Series on Friday night. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before. No one would give a crap if they had won. We wouldn't be talking about it. It's the fact that they lost. And so now they're like, well, he's distracted. He's at the game. It's not a good look. This, and this. And it's like, and I said this, I'm sure that man has shown up hungover as crap to a game and had one of his best performances ever. Yep. We just didn't know about it. This one just happens to be that he's dating a superstar and is public and everyone knew he was there.
Yeah, to assume that these
you don't have to touch
20, 30-somethings are out
is what it is.
Partying, it's fine. And unless you're going to do the research to say he had never gone out before a game, it's the first time he'd ever done that and didn't have success, or every time he's done it, he's not had success.
Yeah.
You're just setting yourself up to get got with
mind your business.
Sad take. Yeah, these guys are human. It's like the guys celebrating in the off season or going out on vacation. It's like, you should be in your playbook. Like that crap. It's like the same energy.
You get 1 week, take a break.
They can. He's a professional. He's the greatest tight end to ever play. He's not locked in. Trust me. The guy. I'll start cussing.
He's a dog. Okay, take seven.
All right. This is a tough one too because the Chiefs missed Nick Bolton.
Yeah,
they missed Nick Bolton in the middle of that defense. Broncos ran it 40 times in this game. Russell Wilson only threw it 19 times. Russell Wilson was 12 of 19 for only 114 yards. Wasn't the Russell Wilson that they thought when they traded for, but said it before the last game. Russell Wilson had not been the problem for the Broncos this year. He had played better. He hadn't played like the trade or the contract warrants it, but he wasn't the punchline that he had been in the past for how poorly he had been playing.
Right.
But for the Chiefs, linebacker depth could start to be an issue. We don't know how serious, at least as of the time of this recording, that Willie Gay Jr. Had a tailbone injury, hurt his butt. Hopefully it's not too serious. He misses any time. As we know, Nick Bolton's going to miss, at least 8 weeks, 7 more weeks as we start to count down. I did not think the defense played poorly. I actually thought in a lot of ways they played pretty well outside of a couple of guys and a couple of moments. But they're going to miss Nick Bolton. If Willie Gay misses any time, Nick Bolton's going to miss some time. They missed some physicality in the middle of that defense. There were some missed tackles that got highlighted pretty well. Javonte Williams, big physical running back. They needed Nick Bolton's, the downhill thumper. And he gets his hands on somebody, they're going down. And the Chiefs missed that, I think, in this game against the Broncos. And so it's not as much they lost the game because Nick Bolton didn't play because the defense played well. But long term, looking forward,
it's a little scary looking at the stats.
It's a little scary looking if Willie Gay can't get in there. But yeah, Leo Chanel on the other side,
phenomenal.
The FF grade was really, really good. Showed out, made some plays. It's great to see that, but you're going to start getting into the Jack Cochran's coming on. Not anything wrong with Jack Cochran, but he ain't Nick Bolton.
Yeah.
I need to tell you that too. So
there was a scary moment too when Drew Tranquil got a little shaken up. And I was like, no.
That would have been.
I was like, Willie Gay just came out of the game. Please do not do this. I think he does. I mean, you've said this many times before, and I'll repeat what you said, is the fact that Drew Tranquil was the best offseason addition for what's transpired this season. Obviously, Nick Bolton being out, having a veteran guy like him who can fill in. But yeah, if you start seeing more of those guys go down, those are leaders in that position, calling a lot of what they're reading, and that losing your green dot's not good.
They missed him, and one of the other players that they've missed just because they haven't played at the level that we expect him to play this year. If you want to talk about players that have disappointed you on a defensive side, because not a lot of we always talk about how well the defense is.
Yeah,
played.
I'm curious. Chiefs to say,
but L'Jarius Sneed did not play well against the Broncos, and really hasn't played up to the level of there were circles and people talking about L'Jarius Sneed as a top 10 cornerback or even higher in some regards. He's got some versatility. He can play safety, he can play corner, played safety in college. But man, he has not been great for the Chiefs. Against the Broncos, PFF had him as a 41.3 grade. That was the third lowest grade on the defense, besides only Jalen Watson and Justin Reed, who were both graded below what we saw from L'Jarius Sneed, but it was 4 penalties. I think he was matched up on Cortland Sutton for most of the day. He was following him around quite a bit. Made sense. Big physical guy. That's what Sneed kind of does. Sneed has been following guys around, so he's getting the tougher matchup. We get that. But you look, again, PFF, he's ranking right now 49th in the league among cornerbacks who have played at least 50% of their snaps. And for a player, and this is not any other reason that maybe he's not fully healthy, he's just having a bad year. It's a guy in a contract year. This is a guy that should be playing his best football to set up and get paid, and instead having one of the worst years of his career. And again, we don't know about injury, coming back from it. He missed a lot of time during training camp. Hopefully it's a stride going down, toward the latter part of the season. But if I had to criticize one thing about the Chiefs defense, it would be L'Jarius Sneed in particular, because there were really high expectations for him.
Yeah, and there were still plays that you saw yesterday where he came up big and had those moments, those little sparks. But all in all, yeah, it was a disappointing performance out of him. And I think I can't remember what game it was. We were talking afterwards how phenomenal he was in that game, but it's only been one time this season. And it begs the question, do those injuries continue to build up? And yes, he did miss time in training camp. He had a collarbone injury before. He had another injury that sidelined him a season before that. So being injury prone, as you know, it doesn't matter how talented you are in this league. If you keep getting caught by the injury bug, it's going to eventually catch up with your game. And that's just the sucky part about it.
It's going to be used against you in contract.
Absolutely. And this is what's coming up. Yeah.
And then when it's shitty for the player because they use it that he's not out on the field, but if he goes out on the field and is playing at 80%, isn't playing very well. We don't know if this is the case, but if he is still banged up and he's going out there not playing well, that will be used against him. So you think that it would be like, hey, he's a warrior, he's going out there at 80%, he's giving us his all. Well, the numbers are going to back up that he's playing at 80%. That will be used against them. So I understand sometimes why players won't go out there and play at 90%, because the teams and the people making the decisions on whether or not, or how much money to give him, or to give him money at all. Like, they're using that against him while rewarding it in the moment where everybody wants him on the field. So that's a crappy position to be in, but it was not a good performance from L'Jarius Sneed and several other of the Chiefs' defensive guys. There's mentioned a couple with Jalen Watson and Justin Reed. Justin Reed missed some tackles there in the middle of the defense. And they were just the ones that were highlighted that we saw. There were some big moments where he just kind of whiffed on some tackles, and that hasn't been abnormal during his time. He's definitely made some plays and been a leader, a reason they won the Super Bowl last year, but not above criticism in the plays that were not made that you'd expect a veteran back there to make. All right, so we on to number 9. The one, I guess, positive thing that we'll have in here, and the pass rush was good. Finished with 6 sacks and 8 quarterback hits. And George Karlaftis individually had 2.5 sacks, the best game probably of his career, at least in terms of the statistical department. But overall, this is a Chiefs group that is pacing for a franchise record for number of sacks. I think they're on pace for like 60 team sacks, more than they had last year when they won the Super Bowl. Getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks and all that has not been the issue, and that's pretty good and saying something after Chris Jones had his worst game. Like, he didn't make a lot of the impact. There were a couple times where Russell Wilson got the ball off and he held it for a half second. Chris was going to hit
his name for him.
But for a superstar player, and as well as the defense played, maybe it's a testament to how good the defense really is that they can go out. We can talk about the defense playing pretty well, and their superstar defensive lineman's name really wasn't called on.
Yeah, I mean,
that was attention on him, a bunch of double. I watched it at that level. I'm sure we'll get that throughout the week, as the 87 Chiefs platforms that cover it and break down film. Somebody will get there. Somebody will talk about it, and then it'll be good because there's a lot of great people who cover the Chiefs.
But you're right. These are we see the addition of Omenihu. Mike Dannon's having a great year this year and being phenomenal. George Karlaftis coming up and what he left off on last season, continuing to build there. So it's been wonderful to see, because the pass rush, I mean, for years and years back, BJ, this was the issue we constantly had to talk about. I mean, it was constantly talked about in pressers. So the fact that we're highlighting this in a really crappy game as the best thing that happened, I mean, I'll take it. That's wonderful. It just didn't happen to work out in the Chiefs' favor. Defense couldn't go out there and score touchdowns for them, but you'll love to see the growth from Karlaftis.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the final one, and this is the same topic that I know that the KC Lab is going to have tonight or tomorrow or yesterday, depending upon when you're listening to this podcast. We're recording Monday midday, just shy of 1 o'clock right now. I know the Lab guys will go live at 9 p.m. tonight, and this is going to be a big focus for them. And then I'm sure Only Weird Games just going live about 4:45 on Monday. Thanks, Tucker. It's 4:30, but sometimes it's 4:40. It's always 4:40.
If Nate Taylor's on it, it's late. I'm just saying. I love Nate because whenever he would show up for the presser at Chiefs, I'm like, oh, it's about to start. Because Nate just got here, so
right on time.
It's going to start.
That's funny. But the topic that I'm sure everybody's going to touch on in all of Chiefs Kingdom is going to have hot takes on all weekend. Yeah. Do the Chiefs need to trade for a wide receiver? I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about it all season long, and I think it just became even more apparent that you can't ignore what they have. Yes, there's problems with the salary cap. Their trade value, the Chiefs roster, it's going to be a hard move. It's not easy. I think that's why it's been avoided for so long. But watching what happened, I mean, I don't see how long Brett Veach will be able to watch what happened last week without doing something about it. And in his track record, when something that embarrassing happens on national television, he usually does something pretty quick. Yeah, I see it happening. Who, how, from, I don't know. Those are the things that just are far above my understanding of how the salary cap works.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a discussion here,
and trade value too. You know what I mean? Like you have to also.
Yeah, I put out on social media last night that I don't think just trade for any wide receiver, plug them in, and that's going to fix the issue. I know it sounds simplistic, but I don't think bringing a receiver who doesn't know the offense and the verbiage, all of that is going to make the impact that a lot of people just assume that it will. Not to say that it would make some kind of an impact, and then people say, well, they brought in Kadarius Toney last year. Kadarius Toney had a package set of plays that he ran that he only knew those plays, and they could teach him the rest of the offense. Seemingly was going to learn it this offseason. We haven't seen Kadarius Toney consistently run a assortment of wide receiver routes and double moves and sitting in zones in the intermediate levels and then running double moves, getting open down the field, all those types of things, tracking a ball well. All those things we have not seen from any of the Chiefs wide receivers. So we need a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. And I don't mean that as like that their offense doesn't set up that way. They're not going to give anybody 15 to 18 targets. They need somebody that can understand the entire offensive playbook and what their responsibility is on any given play and go out there and make plays. I don't think that guy is available that you can go get. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins, as much as I want him in the offseason, I don't think he can step in and learn the entire offense at the level that we need somebody. I had people last night on social media telling me, well, can't they just get somebody who can run a simple slant? Even if it's a package play, isn't that better than what we have? Depending upon who you're benching, because if you've got Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, and a new guy, all of which only run packaged plays, you still have MVS, Justin Watson, and maybe Sky Moore that are running the rest of those routes. I don't think they're going to be able to bring anybody mid-season that's going to pick up the entire offense. And then you say, well, what about Juju? Juju has 2 years added on to the end of that deal if they trade for him. And I don't think Brett Veach wants to go to the well of a player they could have just paid. It would have stayed here and instead give up another pick. They just did that with McCole Hardman. They've done it with Neil Farrell. As far as throwing away like old picks, that their draft capital of making good on maybe mistakes or depth that they didn't see before, I don't think they'll go down that route again. And so I'm sure an Adam Thielen. Now, there's a lot of names that you could throw out there of veteran receivers that could probably pick up a good chunk of the offense. Not saying that all of them couldn't get some of it, but they're needing a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and you're not going to get that kind of production from somebody joining the team in the middle of the season. You're just not. And I don't like having half your wide receiver room only understand certain package plays. And right now that's McCole Hardman and that's Kadarius Toney.
So are you saying that if it would have been done earlier, would have fixed the issues, but it's too late to do it now, so you might as well just like water the grass that you're on?
Yeah, if you were to get DeAndre Hopkins or Odell in here for, a chunk of the offseason or training camp and get him used to the offense, get him used to, it's not as simple as I see people say this, go run a post, go run a slant. Well, they run a post when the leverage set dictates that they should run a post. Their offense is not just run a certain route all the time. They have to read the defense. They have to know against zone coverage, where do you sit? Where are the leverages of the people? And that takes time and reps with Patrick Mahomes. And so, yes, there are receivers that can run routes better, might understand NFL offenses better than Sky Moore right now. That doesn't mean that they can step in with Patrick Mahomes and he's fully going to trust that they're going to be where they need to be. And we say trust is the number one thing here. Mahomes isn't going to trust. Even if you got DeAndre Hopkins, you think he's going to trust him to let go of that ball before he breaks, knowing DeAndre Hopkins better know exactly when and how to break and where to go? If you really break it down and see like what trust means when throwing to a wide receiver from a quarterback, that's not something that is feasible, in my opinion, that's going to happen midseason with a new player, unless it's just absolutely forced because he is in Patrick Mahomes, has no other choice but then just to hope that he's going to be in the right place. And hope versus trust is a different thing when you're talking about chucking the ball around and trying to go win a Super Bowl.
And it sounds like they just got to figure it out. They got to find their answer is within the wide receiver room.
It's what they bet on themselves for, and
got to make it work.
Or not pulling the trigger to pay a veteran receiver.
Yeah.
They stuck to their guns on what they were willing to pay and what their values said they were, and now they put it on themselves to develop some young receivers who haven't quite got there yet. Still in the middle of the season. All that matters is that they have it by the end of the year. But the clock is ticking at this point, and especially with the trade deadline. After this, there's nobody else out there. Although Dwayne Bowe did put out a tweet saying that he would, an X, I don't know what stay there. He put out a picture saying, man, I'd love to catch passes from Patrick Mahomes. So, well, music.
I think Germany's going to reveal a lot. Was this a fluke? Was this something they could bounce back from? You've said it before that it's games like these that, kick them around and they come back and lights out and make a fantastic showing. But it's a tough Miami team ahead abroad.
Yeah,
the travel.
The good news, and I'll say this for the alarmists, and it'll start to make me feel a little bit better. I wholeheartedly believe that they've got the coaches and the people in that building that can get the most out of the players if the players have it in them to get to where they need to be. And in the past, you gave the benefit of the doubt that, hey, Sky Moore can get there, but this is put up or shut up time. He's got his opportunities. He's never going to have more of an opportunity. Talking about Sky Moore, or even Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, all these guys, MVS. they're never going to have a better opportunity to prove that they can be the guy. And after this, if nobody steps up and they bring other guys in, those guys can't complain a bit because they got their chance and nobody stepped up and taken it yet.
Well, we'll have to see. That's all we
Swear
can do.
as much as I thought. You can swear it all.
I think I said damn. I think I did. My grandma watches, so I try to be careful. I'm sorry, Grandma.
So Mrs. Lewis. Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis?
Yeah.
Lewis? What's
Dad's,
the name?
Dad's mom.
Got it. Appreciate you for watching.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I'm excited. I'm excited for the game abroad. It's fun.
We'll be at Kingdom Bar. They'll be serving brunch. Come hang out. You can yell and scream and cuss with the rest of us.
Yeah.
We're animated
watch
sometimes.
So we'll be okay.
You can come hang out with Tucker. Tucker will get a drink with you if you're the drink
Seltzer.
site. You get a seltzer at 8:30 in the morning. You do a seltzer review.
We could make a TikTok.
And we'll do the 50. We'll do it again. And if they don't score a touchdown against the Dolphins, we will just retire the paying $50 towards your tab phone. We'll try that again. And if it doesn't work, then it's on me. It's on KCSN. I'm sorry. Chiefs Kingdom. But appreciate all you for watching. Hope it made you feel a little bit better. Hopefully not a lot worse. But let us know in the comments section how you're feeling today about everything, and hit that like and subscribe. We appreciate all of your support. This is a locally owned business, started from scratch 2 years ago, and so your support means everything to us. That means you always like every host or every personality on this network. That's why we have a lot of shows and a lot of people. But our goal is to create fun dialogue and provide information, stats, nuggets, and be a resource to help you become a better and more informed fan. And so we appreciate your support of KC Sports Network, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, live Only Weird Games at 4:45 and a live KC Lab at 9 p.m. See y'all later.